Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. It is dark times here in Philadelphia, but we'll make it through it. At least for the Philadelphia sports fans, but that's all that matters at the end of the day. But before we jump right into it, if I could ask you guys to leave a like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated before moving on to our first topic here, in which I will land blast the Eagles for close to 15 to 20 minutes probably, and I'll just go on a rant and I won't remember what I just said. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. The Denver Broncos upset the Philadelphia Eagles 21-17. Looking at some of the raw stats before we get into what I saw. Looking at some of the Broncos stuff. Bo Nix went 24-39, 242 passing yards, and 1 touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 22 yards on the ground. J.K. Dobbins had 20 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown. He was their leading rusher. Their top receiver was Courtland Sutton with 8 receptions for 99 yards. Troy Franklin with 3 receptions for 35 yards. Evan Ingram with 4 receptions for 33 yards and a touchdown. And R.J. Harvey was the next closest with 3 receptions for 18 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack Hurts, I believe it was 6 times, which tied a career high for Hurts for sacks in a single game. And yeah, we'll get into the Broncos here in a couple of minutes. But looking at the Eagles here, Jalen Hurts went 23-38, 280 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Saquon only had 6 carries for 30 yards. Jalen Hurts only had 2 carries for 3 yards. Devontae Smith had 8 receptions for 114 yards. Saquon had 3 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 5 receptions for 43 yards. And Dallas Goedert had 3 receptions for 19 yards and a touchdown. He also, fun fact, he tied, I forget who it was, but he tied an Eagle, a legendary Eagle, for most receptions through the first 4 games. I think that was coming into week 5, and then he continued that to stay tied with that person through week 5 here, which is pretty impressive. So I got to give my hats off to Dallas Goedert. Although he doesn't have the receiving yards, he's been fairly effective in the red zone. So I can't really complain about his production. We'll get into who I can complain about their production, but we'll get into that in a couple minutes. Defensive-wise, we really weren't able to sack the quarterback that much. Pass rush has been non-existent, with only Zach Bond and Zadarius Smith getting consistent enough pressure on the quarterback to get him on the ground. And there were no turnovers forced by the Eagles' defense. Alright, so let's get into kind of the bigger picture here as a whole. Let's go into what the Broncos did right. Let's go with that. The Broncos stayed in the game. They were down 17-3 at halftime. Alright? Their defense stepped up in the second half. They forced constant 3-and-outs by the Eagles' offense, and they shut down the passing attack, which was really shredding them through the first half. They also were able to absolutely shut down Saquon to the point that Kevin Patullo, who we'll get into in a couple minutes, trust me, didn't want to use Saquon on the ground anymore. And their offense, although not perfect, was efficient enough to move the ball when it mattered most. Now, I don't think they were going to score on that last drive there that put them up 21. I think that without the Zach Bond penalty, which we'll get into even more in a second here. I know I keep saying that, but I have a lot of stuff I need to talk about the Eagles. I feel like without that penalty, they tie it possibly at 17-17, and then it's a different ball game. The Eagles can get the field goal. the Eagles can play more strategically rather than we have to get down there and we have to score a touchdown. So, yeah, that is slightly concerning to me that defense did a pretty good job shutting down everything in the second half, which has kind of been the story of the Eagles season so far. Playing one good half, and then the second half, you don't do anything. So let's get into the Eagles. All right, I don't know exactly where to start, so I'm just going to go, and then we're going to end wherever we end. All right, so just stick with me. Jalen Hurts had a pretty good day in the first half. Not a bad day in the second half by any means. He didn't go like 0 for 8 passing in the second half like he did against the Buccaneers. He just couldn't get the offense to generate any forward momentum. Saquon was efficient when he got the ball, but he only got the ball 6 times. Davante had an amazing game. He had 8 receptions for 114 yards and was fairly effective through the air, especially when it came to third down. Jalen was able to find Davante over the middle. A.J. Brown, you had like 10 targets, but only 5 receptions. Okay, let's get into this, because I'm going to be ranting for this one for a sec here. You go out and you complain about how you don't feel appreciated. And you already had 8 targets during the Buccaneers game and only 2 receptions. That is on you. You go out against the Broncos. Yes, you're against one of the best corners in the league, but you're dominating him early on. You have 10 targets in the game, but you can only catch half of them. I don't know what we're doing here. There are multiple people to blame for this offensive inefficiency. But A.J. Brown, you are one of the top guys to blame here. Alright? You are not getting off the hook. You had like 9 or 10 targets this game, and you only hauled in half of those. And they weren't in big moments like Davante did. They were in smaller moments to set up like second down and short. You are needed more in this offense, and you are being targeted 18 times over the past 2 games to only haul in 7 of those targets. That is on you. All right, you need to step up. You need to figure something out. Yes, I'm going to get into what the big problem is, and I've been saying this for weeks, but you are the problem too. Defensive wise, we'll get into the defense in a second because I have another rant for the defense. Kevin Patullo, offensive coordinator for the Eagles. What the hell are you doing? I mean, this offense doesn't have an identity. You're not running the ball. Last year, our identity was run the ball and then open up the play action. This year, it's show up for one half of football and then take a rest for the second half. Guys, this isn't like the preseason anymore. This isn't like the first couple of weeks of the regular season where you're still figuring yourself out. There are teams in the NFC that I will be listing my top 3 in a little bit here, and 2 out of the 3 are NFC teams. And 2 out of the 3 have earned it. I don't know exactly what to say. The offensive inefficiency comes from a lack of preparation from the play caller, our offensive coordinator, and a lack of change, especially adjustments during the second half. I've seen this before. I know where this is going. This is going to lead back to the 2023 season, and I'm not going to sit around for it. I'm going to do something about it, as all Eagles fans should. We have to make it known that this offensive coordinator is not okay. I don't care that this isn't Sirianni's fault, but it's not okay to continue choosing mediocre guys from your coaching staff. It's just not okay. If you have to pick somebody else from out of your own coaching tree, that is okay. But you have to be able to have a guy that can make adjustments and can identify what this team has to do to consistently win at a high level. And Kevin Patullo just can't. He can't. And I've yelled at him for the past 3 to 4 weeks now. I'm getting tired of this, all right? This cannot continue, and if it does, the Eagles are not going to go easily into the playoffs. They have stretches of games coming up where these are against good teams. And good teams, they adjust at the second half. The Bills, one of the best teams to do it in my opinion, have numerous times been down in the first half and then has adjusted to put themselves in a better position. All right. That's all. I know I've been complaining about the offense for the past couple of weeks, but it has to be addressed now. You got no more time. You're out of time. All right. You're almost midway through the season. You're only a couple weeks. You're only like 3 more weeks away from the middle of the season. You have to address it now. All right. Defense. The lack of pressure on the quarterback is very concerning. The lack of discipline is also very concerning based off of the flags. Zack Baun should be our best guy. Should know that a runner going down is not going to plunge forward. He's going to stay there. But yet you go in and you lay on top of him. And that draws the penalty. You are a captain of this defense. You are arguably our best player on defense. Hands down, I will say. You have to know how to play disciplined. I don't care if you regret the move. I regret the move that you did it. But you have to contain yourself, all right? This offense is good, but it's not that great, all right? It struggled throughout the year, and they looked like a top-tier team this week. Quinyon Mitchell, you looked all right, but you let Courtland Sutton burn you multiple times. You have to settle in. You are the number one guy. All right, you had a good week against the Bucs, so I'm giving you a pass this week, unlike most of the defense. You have to be the guy alongside Reed Blankenship and Zack Baun to set the tone on the defense. Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, y'all look fine. I don't remember any big plays where you guys got burnt or any times that you guys did stupid stuff to draw penalties. So I'm not going to complain about the exciting whites. They did an okay job. All right? Not great, okay. Kelee Ringo, you got burnt a couple times, pal. You need to get settled, all right? Yes, you had an okay game, but you need to get settled in, all right? But as of right now, to me, you are a stopgap at the corner position. Jalen Carter, you have done nothing this entire season. All right, you're supposed to be the bowling ball in the center of the line to get after the quarterback. I know you got Jordan Davis alongside of you, but he's there to complement your poor run stopping. He's there to stop the run. You're there to get after the quarterback, and it feels like Jordan Davis is doing that more. You have to want it at this point. All right? There's no more, oh, he's a sophomore, or, oh, he's a freshman. He'll figure it out. No, now's the time to insert yourself in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. You saw Hutchinson do it up in Detroit last year before he got injured. He looked like one of the best players in the NFL. You have to get after the quarterback. You have to elevate your level of play. Just that simple. Overall, here's what I can see out of this Eagles team. They lack identity. They don't know who they are. All right? They have to run the ball with Barkley. They have to scheme up better passing plays to get people open. It can't just be constant AJ on comeback routes, Devontae on in routes over the middle of the field. That's just not how this offense is going to work. And from here on out, I'm going to expect that this is going to wake them up. And if it doesn't, I'm going to come on here every week, and I'm going to lamb blast this team. because that's what they deserve. All right, they don't deserve any more grace. You don't get that. All right, you lost that, actually. Now you have to play out of your minds. All right, you have to play the best ball that you can, and that's everybody. All right, everybody across the board. Even if you had a decent game this past game, you have to play better. It's just that simple. But it's a good win for the Broncos. I'm not going to take it away from the Broncos here. Broncos definitely won this game rather than the Eagles lost it. Eagles could have done a couple more things to prevent the Broncos coming back. But good win from the Broncos. Eagles, time to pull our heads out of our asses. All right? Just that simple. All right, so there's not any major news going around the NFL right now. There's only one story that I really wanted to touch upon. That being the Joe Flacco trade, which occurred yesterday, Tuesday, October 7th. So Joe Flacco got traded within the division. He got traded to the Bengals for a late round pick, in 2026. Flacco, to me, severely struggled in Cleveland, but at times did show veteran poise when it mattered most. Especially during their win against the Packers in Cleveland. He knew how to get the team the win, how to have an efficient drive down the field to set up the kicker for a game-winning field goal. The Bengals have had the Jake Browning experiment for 3 weeks now, and up to now it's been a major failure. And it seems like the Bengals organization as a whole has had enough of him at quarterback. Obviously, this trade will probably increase Ja'Marr Chase's and T. Higgins' production over the next few weeks. And the Bengals could try to survive off of Flacco's veteran play and just stay within it. If they can get Burrow back by December, and they're sitting at maybe a little bit above 500, especially in such a bad division this year. The only good team in the AFC North to me is the Steelers this year. But in such a bad division, I feel like they can stay on the 8 ball with a veteran quarterback. And look, this offense, Joe Flacco likes to throw it deep, especially in his older age. Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins can just go deep every single time. It doesn't really matter. But I feel like that this is a smart move and a cheap move for the Bengals to do in order to keep their playoffs hopes alive. All right? And if they can just stay alive until Burrow gets back, like I said, I can see them making it into the playoffs as a wild card. All right, so let's get into my top 3 teams. All right, so I've debated this a few times on who should be up here. So let's start at number 3. At number 3, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This team just finds a way to win. They play winning football. Baker's having an arguably MVP caliber season. And ultimately, I don't think they really care what anybody else has to really say about it. They continue to beat good teams. Although they lost to the Eagles, they continue to beat good teams. Like the Falcons, the Texans, and the Seahawks as well. I'm not going to say the Jets are a good team since they're 0-5, but they are going to continue to build on that momentum moving forward, and I think the Buccaneers will be a dangerous team for anybody in the NFL to face off against moving forward. Number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. I debated bringing them off, but ultimately I couldn't do it only because this was just a trap game for them. It was a rough game this past week, a loss to the Patriots, but I feel like they're going to learn from this and that they're going to take a step forward. They're only a game ahead of the Patriots in their division, but I feel like they still have the talent and they still have the veteran knowledge on their team to just close the door in the coming weeks on the Patriots and close the door on them when they face off next. So I have the Buffalo Bills at 2. I'm not that concerned that they just dropped the game, but I would like to see how they bounce back next week and how Josh Allen continues to play against some top-tier defenses. Lastly, at number 1, we have the Detroit Lions. Why? Detroit has, similar to the Bucs, after a rocky start to the season, they have continued to show that they know how to win. All right? They have a winning culture, and they know how to win moving forward. And they are going to continue to battle against teams like the Packers, who I think they had their bye week this week. But they're going to continue to win, and they're going to find ways to win against teams like the Packers moving forward, and teams like the Buccaneers moving forward. And I'm not that concerned. I know how far the Lions can get. I just want to see them. I want to see Jared Goff get them over the hump, and I want to see them beat them be an underdog and beat the Bills or somebody, or like the Buccaneers. But yeah. Those are my top 3 teams in the NFL as of this week. Obviously, that's going to change week to week. But overall, it's a solid list to me. Next week, I'm going to expand it to 5. If I expanded it to 5, maybe the Eagles would have been on there. But I'm not sure right now, man. But yeah. So that's that. Moving on, we have last week's games here. And we're going to start off with an overtime thriller on Thursday night, that being the San Francisco 49ers upsetting the LA Rams. The 49ers, Mac Jones went 33 of 49, 342 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the ground, Christian McCaffrey had 22 carries for 57 yards. Through the air, the top receiver was Kendrick Bourne with 10 receptions for 142 yards. Christian McCaffrey was the next highest receiver with 8 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. Jake Tonges with 7 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown. And Demarcus Robinson with 3 receptions for 39 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack Stafford once, and they were able to force, I believe it was 2 fumbles by Kyren Williams. So the defense was able to force turnovers. They just weren't able to get after the quarterback too much. And this was a tight game here. Yeah, I'm surprised that the 49ers were able to pull it off. And Mac Jones continues to play at a high level in the Shanahan system. So that only proves to me that Brock Purdy is realistically a system quarterback. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but he's not like a Mahomes or Allen that can take over a system and make it their own. Stafford himself went 30 of 47, 389 yards, 3 touchdowns. On the ground, Kyren Williams had 14 carries for 65 yards. He also had 2 fumbles as well, like I mentioned earlier. Devontae Adams was their top receiver with 5 receptions for 88 yards, followed by Puka Nacua, who's continuing to have a stellar season at the wideout position. Arguably, he's one of my top 2 wide receivers, arguably behind Justin Jefferson. But we'll see how those two keep battling in the NFC over the number 1 wide receiver position or spot. Puka, if I didn't already say it, had 10 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown, followed by Tutu Atwell with 2 receptions for 72 yards. Kyren Williams with 8 receptions for 8 receptions for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that was the next closest person. Defensive-wise, they were not able to sack the quarterback once. They were not able to apply consistent pressure to Mac Jones. Though they did get one play where it looked like they sacked him pretty hard, that Mac Jones went down, got pulled from the game, but then he went back in. So, who knows? But, yeah, a solid game from the 49ers here. And Rams, it's another tough loss, especially to a division rival. You guys have to figure a way to start compiling wins. You can't go every other game now, especially with how well the 49ers and Seahawks are playing in your division. All right, so we're going to go over to the oh, brother. We're going to go across the pond to the NFL London game, where the Minnesota Vikings beat the Cleveland Browns. Oh, I thought the Browns won, actually. All right, well, the Cleveland Browns started rookie Dillon Gabriel at quarterback, and honestly, he had a respectable first start in the NFL. He went 19 of 33, 190 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 2 carries for 5 yards. Quinshon Judkins had himself a day. He had 23 carries for 110 yards. David Njoku was the top receiver with 6 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Bond had 2 receptions for 29 yards. Jamari Thrash had 1 reception for 22 yards. Jerome Ford had 2 receptions for 20 yards. And Quinshon Judkins had 1 reception for 18 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback quite a few times. They even injured Wentz at one point. But they were not able to force any turnovers, so that became the bane of their existence. So moving over to the Vikings side, Carson Wentz went 25 of 34, 236 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 3 carries for 13 yards. And Cam Akers also had one attempt for 1 completion for 32 yards and a touchdown as well. Jordan Mason was their top rusher on the ground. He had 13 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, Justin Jefferson is still arguably the best wide receiver in the league. Bar none, he had 7 receptions for 126 yards. Jordan Addison was the next closest with 5 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson had 6 receptions for 38 yards. And Josh Oliver had 2 receptions for 35 yards and a touchdown. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback a couple of times, but it didn't look like they were able to get consistent pressure on Dillon Gabriel, which led to a cleaner game by Gabriel than it did for Wentz. Or Dillon, sorry. No, it is Gabriel. Boom. I know it. Cleaner game by Gabriel than Wentz. And although the Vikings won, this is honestly a moral victory for the Browns, and I believe it showed to the Browns that, hey, we can move off of this veteran guy, and we can trust in the 2 rookies that we have. Mind you, the Browns started with a crowded quarterback room. This preseason, I believe they had Joe Flacco, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder. Now they are down to Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson. So, how things change in a matter of months, but at least their quarterback room looks a lot cleaner than it did when the season was starting. The next game that we're going to cover here is the Cowboys-Jets game. The Cowboys beat the Jets 37-22. Dak Prescott went 18-29, 237 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Javonte Williams had himself a day on the ground. He had 16 carries, 435 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Dak also had 7 carries for 28 yards on the ground. Through the air, their top receiver was Ryan Florney. He had 6 receptions for 114 yards, followed by George Pickens, who had 2 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown, followed by Jake Ferguson with 7 receptions for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback, it looks like 4 or 5 times. So they were able to apply consistent pressure to Justin Fields, it looks like. But they weren't able to force any turnovers, though. Justin Fields had himself a field day, which I'm surprised that a number like this out of Justin Fields passing didn't win him the game. He went 32 of 46, 283 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. On the ground, he had 7 carries for 26 yards. Breece Hall had 14 carries for 113 yards. Pretty efficient day for Breece Hall there. Receiving-wise, Breece Hall also had 4 receptions for 42 yards. Garrett Wilson, 6 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. He's their lead receiver, followed by Mason Taylor with 9 receptions for 67 yards. We already covered Breece Hall. Josh Reynolds had 3 receptions for 29 yards. And that's the last person of note there on that Jets offense. Defensive-wise, they were not really able to get too much pressure on the quarterback, and they were not able to force any turnovers as well. And fun fact, the Jets are the first team to go 0-5 and not force a single turnover through the first 5 games of the season. So, if that speaks volumes to what the season is for the Jets at this point, I don't know what else will. Jets are just going to be on the struggle bus for a little while. They are setting the tone, and they are building. And I wouldn't expect anything more out of them. But, the Jets will be the Jets. And Cowboys, good win. I forget what your guys' schedule is coming up. Panthers, that could be a trap game. Commanders, that's going to be a rough game. Broncos, Cardinals could keep it competitive. So you guys have a interesting stretch coming here. And then after that, a little while after, you guys have Eagles, Chiefs, Lions. So get the wins when you can. Nobody's going to blame you for that, although I hate you guys. Nobody's going to blame you for that. Speaking of blame, let's all laugh at the New York Giants for a second. Here, I'll give you a moment. Alright, that should be enough time. The New Orleans Saints upset the New York Giants 26-14. The Saints, Spencer Rattler went 21-31, 225 yards, and 1 touchdown passing. Taysom Hill went 1 for 1 and 19 yards through the air. Kendre Miller had 10 carries for 41 yards. He was their top rusher. Alvin Kamara had 8 carries for 27 yards, and Spencer Rattler had 6 carries for 21 yards. Receiving-wise, it was a day for Rashid Shaheed. He had 4 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown. Chris Olave had 7 receptions for 59 yards, followed by Alvin Kamara with 4 receptions for 28 yards. That's the next best person, and I'm not going to cover anybody else. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the quarterback twice by the same person, that being Kool-Aid McKinstry, the corner on the Saints. And overall, overall, it seems like a good day for the Saints. Obviously, you got the win, and you guys are going to go 0-17. Looking at the Giants here, Jackson Dart went 26-40, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions through the air. Cam Skattebo was the top rusher with 15 carries for 59 yards. Jackson Dart was right behind him with 7 carries for 55 yards. Receiving-wise, their top receiver was Daniel Bellinger with 4 receptions for 52 yards. Cam Skattebo had 6 receptions for 45 yards. Theo Johnson had 6 receptions for 33 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Darius Slayton had 3 receptions for 21 yards. Defensive-wise, they were not able to sack the quarterback or force any turnovers, it looks like. So the Giants just ultimately kind of came out flat, and they never really tried to pump up their tire. And so they rode into town with 3 wheels or 3 full tires instead of 4. And that's kind of the analogy for this game I'm going to use. Saints, you guys, it's a good win, all right? You guys aren't going to have a lot of them, so enjoy it. And these two are arguably 2 bottom feeders of the league. So I'm not going to say, oh, wow, this is a crazy win by the Saints, but this is a kind of a bad win for the Giants, especially a bad loss by the Giants, especially after the win they had last week. All right, this one I'm going to cover real briefly. And this team I consider to put in my top 3. They're definitely in my top 5. The Colts beat the Raiders 40-6. The Colts, Daniel Jones went 20 for 29, 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson even got into the game. That's how bad that they were beating you guys, Raiders. Anthony Richardson went 1 of 2 for 9 yards. Their top rusher was Jonathan Taylor. He had 17 carries for 66 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Amir Abdullah also had 2 carries for 6 yards and a touchdown. So there you go. Their top receiver was Ashton Dulin with 2 receptions for 55 yards. Josh Downs had 6 receptions for 54 yards. Tyler Warren had 4 receptions for 44 yards and his first NFL touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr. had 5 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had 3 receptions for 20 yards and wow. Anthony Richardson had 1 reception for 9 yards. I think they're finally figuring out how to use them. I'm joking, of course, but yeah, that's actually kind of funny. Defensive-wise, they intercepted the quarterback twice, and they were able to apply consistent pressure, getting to the quarterback 4 times, it seems like. So, overall, a good day by this Colts defense and Colts offense, and this Colts coaching staff, and this Colts team as a whole. Raiders, we're going to go through this quick. Geno Smith, 25 of 36, 228 yards, and 2 interceptions through the air. Ashton Jeanty had 14 carries for 67 yards. Raheem Mostert had 7 carries for 22 yards. Trey Tucker was their leading receiver with 4 receptions for 62 yards. Ashton Jeanty had 5 receptions for 42 yards. Albert Okwuegbunam had 5 receptions for 36 yards, and Jacoby Myers had 4 receptions for 32 yards. You want to know who I don't hear on here? Brock Bowers. He's having a hell of a sophomore slump if I've ever seen one. So, yeah, that's going to be rough. Defensive-wise, they were not able to sack the quarterback or apply consistent enough pressure a single time, and they were not able to force any turnovers to try to put themselves in the game. Ultimately, Colts have continued to show that they are a top-tier team in the NFL this season, and Raiders, I don't even know. We'll talk about you guys at a later date, but good luck, Raiders fans. The Carolina Panthers came back to win against the Miami Dolphins, 27-24. The Panthers, with Bryce Young, he went 19 out of 30, 198 yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Rushing, Rico Dowdle had 23 carries. Jesus Christ, I can't even talk today. 206 yards and a touchdown. I didn't even see that part. Holy Jesus. Receiving-wise, Terrell McMillan had 6 receptions for 73 yards. Xavier Legette had 2 receptions for 31 yards and a touchdown. Rico Dowdle had 3 receptions for 28 yards on top of his 200 burger rushing game. And that's the next person of note that did anything receiving-wise. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback 4 times and were able to apply consistent enough pressure to throw off Tua's timing and all. Though they weren't able to force any turnovers, so there is that. Speaking of the Dolphins, Tua himself went 27 of 36, 256 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air. I would think that would be a winning stat line, but, you know. Devon Achane had 10 carries for 16 yards. Jalen Waddle stepped up in the absence of Tyreek Hill, had 6 receptions for 110 yards and 1 touchdown. Darren Waller had 5 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. Devon Achane had 6 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the quarterback once, that being Minkah Fitzpatrick was able to get the interception off of Bryce Young, but they were only able to get 2 sacks, so they weren't able to apply consistent enough pressure to put the quarterback on his back. Yeah, I'm happy to see the Panthers start to stack wins, and this is a good statement win for the Panthers that, hey, even if we're down, we're not out. Dolphins, nobody's expecting you to win. You guys just lost Tyreek Hill for the season. Everybody expects Mike McDaniels to lose his job before the end of the season. And we'll just see how it all falls out. But yeah, this is a rough one for the Dolphins. And Panthers, good win. Good statement win. All right, we already touched on Broncos, Eagles, and if I talk about the Eagles anymore, I might burst. So, yeah, we'll move on to the next game, where the Houston Texans beat the Baltimore Ravens 44-10. C.J. Stroud went 23 of 27, 244 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 1 carry for 30 yards on the ground. Rushing, their top rusher was Nick Chubb with 11 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. Receiving, Christian Kirk was their top receiver with 4 receptions for 64 yards, followed by Dalton Schultz with 5 receptions for 60 yards. Nico Collins had 4 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. 52 yards and a touchdown. And Jaden Higgins had 4 receptions for 32 yards. Defensive-wise, they intercepted the quarterback 3 times. Twice by Jalen Petrie and 1 by Kamari Lassiter. And defensive-wise, they were able to apply a little bit of pressure to the quarterback. It just wasn't as consistent as one would have hoped out of this game. The Ravens, Cooper Rush, obviously Lamar Jackson is injured. Cooper Rush went 14 of 20, 179 passing yards, and 3 interceptions. Derrick Henry had 15 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. We'll touch on that in a second why that's a bad thing. Zay Flowers had 5 receptions for 72 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 receptions for 46 yards. Mark Andrews had 2 receptions for 22 yards, and Isaiah Likely had 1 reception for 12 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback twice, but it just really wasn't enough to throw off this Texans passing game rhythm, and they were not able to force any turnovers themselves. Overall, it's not like the Ravens are that great of a team, but it's nice to see the Texans start to get their footing and start to stack these wins moving forward. Ravens, you guys are now at 1-4. If you guys move to 1-5, I'm going to be very concerned with your possibility to make the playoffs. And obviously, you don't have Lamar Jackson. I feel like anything with Lamar Jackson is possible. And once you get him back, maybe it is. But you guys, this defense, oh boy. You guys are getting torn to shreds almost every single game, especially against good teams. You just got torn to shreds by the Chiefs. Now you're getting torn to shreds by the Texans. And this week, you guys have the Rams. And the Rams are looking to have a comeback here. They're looking to have a bounce-back win here off of a heavy passing attack. And that could ultimately be your downfall. So, ultimately, Ravens start concerning a little bit. Texans fans start concerning a little less. All right? Trade off the concern here, guys. Hand off the baton. We're moving on to another pretty interesting game to me. That being the Tennessee Titans upset the Arizona Cardinals 22-21. The Titans, Cam Ward went 21 of 39, 265 yards, and 1 interception through the air. Tony Pollard was their lead rusher with 14 carries for 67 yards and 1 touchdown. Receiving-wise, Calvin Ridley had himself a day. He had 5 receptions for 131 yards. Chisholm Okonkwo had 4 receptions for 48 yards. Gunnar Helm had 4 receptions for 34 yards. And Eliak Aminor, yeah, there we go, had 2 receptions for 18 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback, looks like 3 times, so they were able to get some bodies on him. It just doesn't look like they were able to do it consistently enough to put Murray flat on his back constantly. They also weren't able to force any turnovers by the Cardinals' offense either. Speaking of said Cardinals offense, Kyler Murray went 23 of 31, 220 yards through the air. On the ground, he also had 4 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown. Their top rusher was Amari DeMarcado with 3 carries for 81 yards. Michael Carter with 18 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown. Zonovan Knight with 4 carries for 11 yards and 1 touchdown. Sorry, it just took me a second to find the way to pronounce that there. Receiving-wise, their lead receiver was Marvin Harrison Jr. Who else would it be? He had 4 receptions for 98 yards. Trey McBride had 5 receptions for 41 yards. Michael Carter, 5 receptions for 22 yards. And Michael Wilson, 2 receptions for 16 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the quarterback once, but they were not able to apply consistent enough pressure. Oh, sorry, no. They got 2 sacks. My bad. That was Josh Sweat that got 2 sacks. So they were able to apply a bit of pressure off the edge to get after the quarterback, and they were able to sack him a handful of times, but it still wasn't enough to get the win here. Now, there are a couple things that didn't work in the Cardinals' favor. Obviously, if you didn't watch the game, Amari DeMarcado dropped the ball at the 1-yard line before breaking the plane, ultimately negating a touchdown run that he would have had. So that would have put the Cardinals on top. Kyler obviously didn't have the best game. He had a lot of passing yards. He just wasn't efficient in the red zone passing. But I feel like this win says less about, or this loss says less about the Cardinals, and this win says more about the Titans. The Titans went in, found a way to win, and clawed their way to victory. They're obviously 1-4. They are all teams that didn't have a win now have a win. So there won't be any team with 0 win now, or 0 wins. Overall, gutsy win by the Titans. Cardinals, you guys should have had this at multiple spots, and you guys allowed the Titans to score 16 in the 4th quarter. That is going to be a concern, and you guys came out of the gate explosive. You guys, Cardinals, scored 14 points in the 1st quarter, then 7 points in the 2nd, and then you guys just stopped playing offense. And that's been the story of your team, similar to the Eagles. You guys play one half of football. And until you guys can fix that, you guys are going to be stuck as a bottom-tier team in the NFC West and in the NFC as a whole. But speaking of 2 top-tier teams going at it in the NFC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Seattle Seahawks 38-35. Baker Mayfield went 29 of 33, 379 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 5 carries for 15 yards on the ground. Rachaad White was their top rusher, obviously with Bucky Irving being out. He had 14 carries for 41 yards and 2 touchdowns. Emeka Mbuka had 7 receptions for 163 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. Cade Otton was the next closest with 4 receptions for 81 yards. Tez Johnson had 4 receptions for 59 yards. So, and defensive-wise, they were able to intercept Sam Darnold once, but they weren't able to sack the quarterback or apply consistent enough pressure to really stifle this explosive Seattle offense too much. Speaking of the Seahawks, Sam Darnold went 28 of 34, 341 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Again, that looks like a winning stat line from a quarterback, but it's just not. Kenneth Walker had 10 carries for 86 yards. I don't know why he didn't have more. Zach Charbonnet had 9 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown. Receiving-wise, Jackson Smith and Jigba had 8 receptions for 132 yards and 1 touchdown. He now has set his career high 100 receiving yard games record. So he has 100-plus receiving yard games. So congratulations to JSN there. Cooper Kupp had 6 receptions for 59 yards. A.J. Barner had 7 receptions for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. Troy Horton had 3 receptions for 39 yards and 1 touchdown. Defensive-wise, they were not able to get after the quarterback. They were able to sack him once. And realistically, if you're going to stop a good quarterback like Baker Mayfield, you got to put him flat on his back more than once. And they weren't able to force any turnovers, which ultimately became the demise of the Seahawks, was that they had one less turnover than the Buccaneers in the end. So, overall, again, gutsy win by the Buccaneers. We've already talked about them. Seattle, they continue to show to me that they are a top-tier team with Sam Darnold under center. So, it's nice to see Seattle continuing to battle no matter whether the chips are down in their game or whether they are leagues ahead of their opponent. Another interesting battle was the Detroit Lions beat the Cincinnati Bengals 37-24. Jared Goff went 19 of 23, 258 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air. David Montgomery also went 1 for 1, 3 yards, and 1 touchdown through the air as well. He also was their lead rusher with 18 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, followed by Jahmyr Gibbs with 12 carries for 54 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8 receptions for 100 yards, followed by Sam Laporta with 5 receptions for 92 yards and 1 touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had 2 receptions for 33 yards and a touchdown, and Isaac Tesla had 1 reception for 12 yards and a touchdown. And Brock Wright had 2 receptions for 9 yards and a touchdown. So Jared Goff really spread out this ball a lot passing. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the quarterback 3 times, and they were able to get after the quarterback thrice, or 3 times. So they were able to apply a little bit of pressure to the quarterback. It just wasn't probably as consistent as they hoped. Bengals, Jake Browning went 26 of 40, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions through the air. He was also their lead rusher with 4 carries for 31 yards. Jamar Chase was their top receiver with 6 receptions for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andre Yosheva had 5 receptions for 82 yards. And T. Higgins had 3 receptions for 22 yards and a touchdown. Defensive-wise, they sacked the quarterback twice, but they weren't able to apply consistent pass rush to stop this explosive Lions offense. And they were not able to force any turnovers either. So for the Lions, it's just another win. Continue your streak here. For the Bengals, you guys got Joe Flacco. Let's see how you guys play with him under center. Commanders-Chargers. This is a weird one here. The Commanders beat and technically upset the Chargers 27-10. Jaden Daniels went 15 of 26, 231 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 8 carries for 39 yards. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had 14 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was their lead rusher, obviously. Deebo Samuel was their lead receiver. He had 8 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown, followed by Luke McCaffrey with 1 reception for 50 yards. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt with 2 receptions for 39 yards. And Jalen Lane with 1 reception for 16 yards. Defensive-wise, they were not really able to sack the quarterback too much. They were able to get after him 3 whole times. But overall, it was more than I thought. There's another guy hiding down here with more. They actually sacked the quarterback 5 times, so my apologies. They were able to get after the quarterback quite a few times and pressure Justin Herbert, which led to turnovers. They have 1 interception on the day. I don't believe they have any fumbles, but that 1 interception made it a difference between a 2-score game and a 3-score game. Justin Herbert went 22 of 29, 166 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception passing. On the ground, he was their lead rusher with 4 carries for 60 yards. Trey Lance eventually came in. He went 3 for 4 for 40 yards through the air. Marion Hampton had 12 carries for 44 yards, though he's now down with an injury. So he'll be out for at least 4 weeks after being put on IR, meaning that they really don't have any running backs in LA now. Receiving-wise, their top receiver was Keenan Allen with 5 receptions for 58 yards. Quentin Johnson with 4 receptions for 40 yards. Ladd McConkey with 5 receptions for 39 yards and 1 touchdown. And Tyler Conklin had 2 receptions for 30 yards. Oh, and Marion Hampton had 6 receptions for 62 yards. Or, sorry, not 62, 26 yards. Defensive-wise, they really weren't able to get after the quarterback. They only had 1 sack on the day. And ultimately, yeah, you have to stop Jaden Daniels, you have to get after him. You have to make him uncomfortable. And the Chargers just were unable to do that, and they were unable to force any turnovers. So, Commanders, you guys are getting yourself back on track. Chargers, slightly concerning. Would like to see you guys get a win here next week. Who you guys play? You guys play the Dolphins. Alright, so this might be a get-right week. You guys might be able to get yourself set and come out of swinging against Miami this week. But we'll just have to wait and see. Alright. Patriots-Bills. The Patriots beat the Bills 23-20. Drake May went 22 of 30, 273 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Their lead rusher was Travion Henderson with 6 carries for 24 yards. And Antonio Gibson was the next closest with 6 carries for 21 yards. And then you also have Ramondre Stevenson with 7 carries for 14 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, there you go. You decided not to fumble the ball, and that's kind of what happens. Stephon Diggs had 10 receptions for 146 yards. Apologies for that. Hunter Henry had 2 receptions for 46 yards. And Kayshon Boutte had 3 receptions for 43 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the quarterback once. And they were able to apply a little bit of pressure to Josh, make him roll out, and throw some errant passes, which ultimately led to some turnovers. Josh Allen went 22 of 31, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He was also their lead rusher. He had 9 carries for 53 yards. James Cook had quite a quiet day. He had 15 carries for 49 yards. Their lead receiver was Dalton Kincaid with 6 receptions for 108 yards. Khalil Shakir had 6 receptions for 45 yards. Josh Palmer had 2 receptions for 36 yards. And Curtis Samuel had 2 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. And let's throw in Keon Coleman, because why not? He had 4 receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the sophomore quarterback 4 times. So I'm surprised that they weren't able to stifle this Patriots offense more. This is a statement win by Drake May, Mike Vrabel, and the rest of the Patriots. And ultimately, Josh Allen and the Bills ultimately will try to just bounce back next week against, who did I say that they were playing? Against the Falcons, and see if they can just right the ship and continue forward past this loss. Alright, lastly from this past week, we had the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Kansas City Chiefs 31-28. Trevor Lawrence went 18 of 25, 221 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception through the air. He was also their lead rusher with 10 carries for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Etienne had 12 carries for 49 yards, a quieter game for him this season. Receiving, their top receiver was Brian Thomas Jr. with 4 receptions for 80 yards. Travis Hunter with 3 receptions for 64 yards. and Brendan Strange with 1 reception for 22 yards. Parker Washington also had 2 receptions for 16 yards and a touchdown. So there you go. Defensive-wise, they intercepted Mahomes once. I believe that was like almost a 100-yard pick six, and were able to apply a little bit of pressure to Mahomes in the middle of his offensive line, ultimately throwing off his game and making him uncomfortable when trying to drop back and pass the ball. Speaking of Mahomes, he went 29-41, 318 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Mahomes was also their lead rusher with 6 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt had 7 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown, and Isaiah Pacheco had 7 carries for 36 yards. Receiving-wise, Tyquan Thornton was their top receiver with 3 receptions for 90 yards. Travis Kelce had 7 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. Hollywood Brown had 4 receptions for 48 yards, and Xavier Worthy had 6 receptions for 42 yards. Ultimately, this is a tough loss for the Chiefs. It was a tight loss. And this is a statement win for the Jaguars, if you want to be honest. They have to stay neck and neck with their division rival, the Indianapolis Colts, to stay atop the division. And ultimately, I just see the Jaguars finding their niche, finding what they're good at, and pushing forward. I have the Jags, again, if you remember back to my predictions, I have the Jags winning the division any which way. So I think the Jags will find it, and this is Trevor Lawrence this year, to take a step forward and elevate his play to elevate the rest of the team around him. All right, so that was this past weekend's games. We are going to blitz through this upcoming weekend's games and my predictions for said games. But I will say, a common theme I've been seeing this week is that even quarterbacks with winning stat lines didn't exactly get the win. So just keep that in mind for everything going forward. Now, this past weekend was not that great for picks for me. I went 7 for 7 this past weekend, though it was on the crazier side, and ultimately I ended up 49-28. So let's get into this weekend's prediction, shall we? On Thursday Night Football, we have the Eagles versus the Giants. I don't see a world where the Eagles really drop this one. I think they're going to be pissed off, and I think they might steamroll the Giants. And I'm not sure this one's going to be close. So I have the Eagles beating the Giants 41-17. Broncos-Jets is the London game. Give me the Broncos. Broncos had a solid win, obviously, against the Eagles this past week. So I think they're looking to build off of that momentum moving forward. And the Jets are very vulnerable right now compared to any other team in the NFL. So I'm going to give this win to the Broncos, probably in another tight game over the seas. But give me the Broncos 28-24. Cardinals, Colts. Give me the Colts. Cardinals I'm kind of down on right now. Colts I'm kind of high on. And I don't really see that changing for either of them unless they have some big upset win. Colts, I think, are just going to play winning football, and that's what kills the Cardinals, is winning football. They can't figure out how to do it. So give me the Colts beating the Cardinals. Not in a blowout, but it's not exactly going to be close. Give me the Colts 31-14. The Chargers take on the Miami Dolphins, like we said earlier this episode, and the Chargers will come back and get the win, especially after 2 losses in a row here. I think Hardball is going to get on his guys, and they're ultimately going to find a way to win. It doesn't matter. Dolphins, I think you guys are just in for the long haul. and this is going to be the struggle bus that you guys live on, so get used to it. But I have the Chargers possibly blowing the doors off of the Dolphins. Give me like 48 to like 22. Browns Steelers. This is going to be a long day for rookie Dylan Gabriel. Coming off a short week. Coming from London back home to Pittsburgh. Well, not back home, but back to Pittsburgh against a solid Pittsburgh team that is coming off of a bye week. If the Browns win, it's going to be off of a miracle. And so, yeah, give me the Steelers all day here. Give me the Steelers, who might play down to their competition a little bit. Give me the Steelers 28-17. We have Cowboys-Panthers. Give me the Panthers. I don't know why. I just have this gut feeling that the Panthers are going to be out for blood, and they're going to catch the Cowboys on their back foot. And ultimately, I'm not sure if CeeDee Lamb comes back this week, but he's coming back soon. And even once he comes back, he's not going to be 100%. So, give me the Panthers striking first here in a tight battle, 23-20. Seahawks, Jaguars. Give me the Jaguars. Although this one, this is going to be a rough one. You know what? Give me Seattle. I'm going to say, give me Seattle for this matchup. I don't know why. I just feel like Seattle's going to be hungry and looking to bounce back after their loss against the Buccaneers. And they will ultimately prove that they are, yes, we are a contending team, and we can contend with anybody that the AFC or the NFL as a whole throws at us. And they win in a walk-off field goal, similarly to how they lost. They win 31-28. Ravens, give me the Rams. I think the Rams shred this Ravens defense into pieces. So, give me the Rams winning in a, not a shootout, but they are going to act like it's a shootout and pass all over the Ravens. Give me the Rams 35-17. Cooper Rush might find a rhythm a little bit, but he just won't be able to get it done. Actually, no, screw it. 35-13. My bad. Patriots, Saints. Although Saints fans, you just got your first win. Give me the Patriots. They're going to find momentum, especially after this win up in Buffalo. And I think they'll carry that on. And Saints, you just happen to be in the way. So, give me the Patriots winning 27-10 against the Saints here. Titans, Raiders. The Battle of Mid. This is literally the definition of Battle of Mid. Give me the Raiders. I think they just find a way to win and try to get a win streak going here to claw their way back into the AFC playoff picture. And Titans, although you guys got your win last week, there are a lot of stuff that you guys have to shore up on, and a veteran head coach like Pete Carroll will take advantage of that. It's just how it is. So give me the Raiders beating the Titans in a close match, 21-17. 49ers take on the Buccaneers. Give me the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are one of the hottest teams in football right now. And 49ers, although they're good, they're not that great. And I don't know who's starting at quarterback for them this weekend. So if Brock Purdy's starting, definitely give me the Buccaneers. So give me the Bucs winning pretty handily, 34-21. Yeah, that sounds about right. 34-21. Bengals, Packers. I'm not sure if Joe Flacco's starting this week. He might, but still give me the Packers, especially coming off a bye week. I think they're just going to find a rhythm and try to find their way back, especially after a tie, but essentially a loss like that against the Cowboys. And they are favored minus 1,600, so you know Vegas knows something. So give me the Packers in this matchup here. Give me the Packers, I don't know, 24 to 10. Yeah, that seems about right. 24 to 10 Packers. Lions Chiefs. That's going to be, is that this week? Wow. Lions Chiefs, and that's in a Sunday night football slot. Give me the Lions. Yeah, give me the Lions. I just don't see a world where this hot Lions team is going to fail against the Chiefs team. They may be down early, but they'll find a way to claw their way back in and seize victory from the Chiefs and ultimately turn this thing around. So give me the Lions beating the Chiefs in a close matchup, 28 to 23. Bills, Falcons. Give me the Bills. Bills are going to look to bounce back. They're going to find a way to mow over the Falcons, and the Falcons haven't looked that great over the season. Although they're coming off of their bye week, they still just haven't looked that great. And against a good team like the Bills, it's going to be rough for them to find a way to generate some offense. So give me the Bills stomping over the Falcons 35 to 17. Lastly, we have the last Monday. So there's two Monday Night Football. That's Bills, Falcons, and then you also have Bears, Commanders. Give me the... Wow. You know, I'm feeling an upset. Give me the Bears. I think the Bears come back into Washington, learn from their previous mistakes, and settle down, lock in, and come out with a close win, 24 to 21. All right, so that is all for this week's episode of the podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying these long episodes of the podcast. If you listen this far, please let me know if you are. And if you haven't, oh well, I guess that's your loss. But till next episode, I've been your host, Matt. Enjoy this weekend's games. And always remember, go Birds.